نوامبر 3 تاریخ was 2000 دسبوی یه وقتن ساکتم گیلتن در روبچ Hassanullah Baig خونن was روبچ خنک مطابق عمر تقریبا 70 سال یا 80 یا 70 سال میانه لیکن ایدل چسب سایم که است در علمین چیز در گلمیت کم دیجه سکول اول درسه و هیچ تو 1940 های سکول چیز طالب علمی بورک was روبش بیشتری غلام دین از یو جماعتی بورک هناك کم مقصد سان سکرمیز قدام قصه کرایوی احیام چیز که اوله بخو تعلیمی سرگرمی بتاین سر انسان سباس اشتسه سخت هریم گیل سه وز کریم سه چیز آباد ویتا یو سه سخت چیز وجه تور مزاینن وز کوی سانتر میسوستو سام سباس کوی وز گک نکرتو روبش سه دم جای کنی و رکورد کم چیز تو PWD تو نه درایو ملازم بتو نکر که هیم جولای موی چه سردو جولای موی مثلا چیز پنشن بویته نکر تو تم وقت یا به نقفش لوپی معلومات و کم ادرم جای که یا به اسپو خالق سبز کدرم زخم و بعد سکوسن ویته کوی خزمین ویته دوینه کوی فکرایار رمز کلاک ویته نکر تو زیاد تیرا دا شرون ویز تو وود گنیم کنم که کم از کم 10 سال میسبت کرد یا تو غفش زیاد معلوماتی ترانس باس ممکنه که غزیات خالق سرمز که زین ویته که درم کومد که کرایار بس کلاک ویته جوین بس کلاک ویته ممکنه یت بدون پیور معلوم نه میت صوت ساکر خاطن رم جای ساکر بت ساکر معلوم نه وسنا لیکن مریم ضرور شما طبیعی همه چیزی که امید که رو بچه سه غفش تا شروع که صفت خالق سرمیز کنه کرد و آیا بی صبر سکر بزرگ قصد دارد تو غفش مربانی چرین بچه ساب کمد که وقت سکر رات و از که قیمتی وقت نزخی صاف سکر سه مطابقی وودگرار سکر رات اخنا کرد و دکتر اندریاس اتروگن انتر غفش مربانی و شکریه شده سرم تو کنیفت که اگر سکر دقیقه قصه کرد که خود اقلایی قصه کرد
غوش مربانی فضل امین صاحب و دکتر صاحب غوش تکلیف شد که وزگی دنجو بین و دنجو غریب خانه و تماز انتریو دوستان وزنطاب شکر گذار اجا اور اقلایی کن که چیز معلومات منجرته ماجر که چیز سزوق تعلیم خد که یا دیگر چیز تکلیفات و نوینیت خد کن ایوار چیزی که نرم شد که خنک وزو چوت بتون از این سوار خانم.
صحیح. تو تی سبب چوک تا این سرن چمر سبب ملونش کویش تو سبب معلوم ته کی سمال شد.
چوک نخاص اسپورت چیز طور خط معلوم گیترمیس چیز سناو نمیشد. کی ساکن سه وقت پیدایش و سه وقت نوید. البته کن سالن کی ساک پیدا وید که خنک داینی و مرحوم دارو بته با مرحوم ویته توریر میکی ناصرالدین به مرحوم ویته عرب خانی دید چه سوجیتی های مشته و اسپو هم عمر خلق هم عمر خلق ویته یعنی زن کی تقریبا یعنی کوئی 5 میلوب کوئی 7 میلوب کوئی 100 لوب ازن کوئی خاص که نوشته کنی نه که سنادم فلانی سنادم ریتوش پیدا وید. جی اندازه این قدیمه ایسا برزن که خطرش کنه نگردون چه میر 5 سال شد 4 سال شد یا 5 سال شد یا 1 سال شد از کم کم یا میرین کم میر که 1 سال توید که وزگ آخری بعد که میر که کم دوست وفات وید که یا میری اجرا کرد از کام ذریعه و زنگ چوت بنیم کار کوی از اینگی صوب کرد آیا مطابق شد باقی را یعنی چه وقت که پاکستان وید که نکرد مالی غوش یعنی کم یاد که پاکستان وید که نکرد به مجرد یاد تومر کامت خاطرش نیست پوزین کوی شهید بود یو علی رحمت رو شد گلمیتن از کسپو دیور قاسم شد تنبوی هندوی دید که شهید وستید شد شهید نونگ تو بنی مت شد یه پاکستان و تهران حیم چیزی اقتداری است اقتداری است گیلت آزادی نه تقریبا یعنی 2 سالن تیوید که 30 سالن ته 2 سالن تیوید که حیم شدیم و معامله یعنی یادی ته ماجر حیم خلق دونگ सिर्फ में शहीद हुए
अच्छा अच्छा
आयो
तो
खाना
अवल गिनी उस्ताद कोई तो सा
स्पोर्ट्स ने अवल गिनी उस्ताद यूएस तो मोमिन नुंग तो कुंजदन तो मोमिन हयात नुंग आयो वसा के जोइवे तो अदान खती या वसन लिखत खरेगदा रेग देखना के तान बाद मास्टर सनहुल्लाह वजदा साके तालीम खेत का दान चीज इनकी खेत का रखना के हां जैसे तो कि स्कूल ने तो ती पुपन या दरान खुन्ने तो आतान साक जो अथा सबा से और शोबे चेनी खून तो قبلان نی خون تو از این قدم مختلف خون و سک بدل کرد زمستان راه جاد تابستان رو زنگو که میر کچه دمیر کچه ماست سنولا سک جایو که یعنی از تومر وقت بعد که سکل دا جایو تومر سال دا سک جایو دت خون و دت دران خون یکی مجرمانی و تصبح دران خون سباس بوره چیز تو زقلای بلدیش تو
तुम क्लास बात को जो इतना
आदान दूसरी बात करें जे तो आप कायदा दूसरी जे तो ने पहली जमात तो है इसको कौम जज्बार वेज दे इसको गुलमित वर्दी जज्बार वेज दे यानी व जंग डोनेशन में नहीं कोई ज़मीन नहीं है हाया दरान सबस कौन की बिल्डिंग तो है कौन की मौजूदा नहीं वैसे बिल्डिंग थे هاي أصبح خالق غول كنوز دقلميت هاي يا يعني خاطر يعني برداشت كده خرچاف كل شيء
دوسري كلاس من دي تو ساشتا
يعني البته سكن دوسري كلاس
أنا متوم ترجمان كان So he says, that I was asking about his date of birth, if he could remember, if not date, at least the year of birth. So he says that we know that there wasn't this tradition of writing date of birth, so it is very much difficult to say that which year it was or which month or date it was. But anyway, then he refers, some of his friends or persons of the same year. So he says that these were, for example, he gives example of Mr. Sajid Khan, Darab, and other people. So then he says that at that time when we were there, so when the school started there, and then afterwards we heard that Pakistan has been brought into existence, and then it was also said that two persons from Gulmit, one named as Qasim of Odwer in Gulmit, and the second one Ali Rahmat of Gulmit, they were killed in the war. So that I could remember, he says. And then he says that maybe we were in class 2 or something like that. So then, in the meanwhile, the community of Gulmit, they initiated for that school, as you saw, that is now Silver Jubilee Band. That was initially the first school constructed by the community. That was the community initiative for school building. So he says that when we started our school, our schooling life there was no building at that time, but rather this was initiated from your grandfather's house. My maternal grandfather's name was, one of them was Arbab Al Hayat. So he had his house there with the name of Daran Khun, means house of Daran. So they started it from there, and then from there onward we also would study. We were given education in a garden there, and afterwards, and when the community took initiative, and then we were brought there, so we were there. So he says, that they just see that these were the situations at that time. So how we could continue our education. He went up to 2 class, and then continued. Panch baat kar rahi dia.
Panch baat kar sake. Je private to
So he has continued up to class 6 or 5th there, And then, he said that we could not continue because there was no facility at that time to for further education. So then we were free from then. He says that our first teacher was Wamin Hayat of Hunza, who taught us, and then after him, Mr. Sanawullah, he came. Sanawullah, he came there. He was also from Barter. So then these were few things regarding his early life or childhood life. Yeah, please.
Glaubst du, wir sollen über die Biografie fragen oder direkt?
Okay. So I think that it is good. Nice if we just take some picture of his life, and then afterwards what we could do, that how they could come here, because he is the second migrant of Bajal who came here, so then we can gradually come to that point and how it evolved. So evolution will come here.
Good. Okay, so then what
Yansing with Sebastian.
अच्छा तांस बादन विद की निव अजंग रिवाज ने तो कि अगीस उजुन या कुंजत उजुन है मजीद तालीम हक बस वेर गिन तो हो जाए.
So there was no tradition of bringing children to Central Hunza or Gilgit at that time, so we could not continue then our education.
तान बाद है उजुन खत वज मजीदन دا حالا شوقم نکرد من خط گذر چون کراچی یا جوی میانو کری سرم خط رام داده یعنی تقریبا وزم رنگ دادیم.
چون سالن تو؟
آیندیم چون سالن تو باز چتن بعد یعنی وزم داده.
کم سال تو؟
کراچی.
چه رنسان نیست؟
کم سال تو یه بودتش تو کم سال را تو دیشم.
آدم اندرسوا.
آدم ونموزه تاخت و اخناک خد یعنی خد که رای هزین که خط لقفارش بخط وزدن شپیکش بخط گوخن نوکریش بخط زارن کل چیز هایم برداشت ها که خیلی مشکل تو برانه باسه قرار دمجای حال را موجی کرد نکر خیان دی ماجه کانسل کرد.
Then he says that that there was no tradition of continuing education further. So anyway, then when he had grown up, a bit, then he thought to flee the area and go to Karachi for either for laboring purpose and then to continue education also with us. Then he has consulted Master Ibadat Shah of Gulmit, whom we took interview. So then he said that, well, there are such kind of hardships there in Karachi. You will have to then wash your own clothes, cook in the house, and then have laboring and these things. So it will be difficult for you. So that's why it will be nice. Don't come to Karachi. And then he stopped, quitted, that decision. So then he stayed. Yeah, and one thing is.
رنگ که کنسل کرد تخنه کرد من سوچ کرد که نیم زندگی چند وقت ریمینه که یعنی تی وقت وزه کچھ وقت دستان کوئی 2 سال ریگ البته که من درزی یاد کرد ٹیلر تقریبا 2 سال بعد که من ٹیلر یاد کرد یو وز کنجود هدت میں دی خالقن ها حیدرآباد حاکم شانون تو آدانم ٹیلر یاد
شون سال نی تو تقریبا
تقریبا حیا وقت وز کوئی 18-20 سال نہیں تو نہیں 18-20 سال نہیں تقریبا 13-14 سال نمال
تو متخلیا
تقریبا 15-16 سال تو ازن چی کوئی بت.
So he doesn't remember that much his age, that that may probably when he was in his teenage, he says, so between 14 to 19 or 18 like this, yeah. So then he thought what to do. Then he decided that, well, okay, it will be nice to learn tailoring and become tailor. So then he learned it. He has gone to Hyderabad in Hunza, and there was a tailor master. His name was Hakim Shah. Hakim Shah. So from whom he has learned tailoring also. So soon after
رام تقریبا 2 سال حال دان قتی وجه جوتاتن کوی دوستو که یو وز مجوین خدا یعنی مرخط که نی خد تیلر یار کدوم خد به تیلری خد لیکن دمی زرین خد که مینت شدم چانی خد که چمنستاتم آمدن چیز نستی خد تی ای جقاز دقلای خد تو ایلوی چاری خد جوی خد
څوم راح یار کرد کندی
دا ما تقریبا سال یار کن بعد اعضای مجر زن خد
انو چیزو
دلاور نمتو حیدرآباد یا بتو خد که نی خد دم تیلر نیزین چی نستی دو خونی مجیوت خد که اوز خد ماشین نیمی خد یار سر یا به تیلر تو لیکن حالا زرنگی حالات همین زرنگ خد که دمی چیز نفع نستی خد تو ایجی تین زقلای خد تو جوی خد ماشد نی زرنگ کمرشنو باس نویدیم خد و جتات شو مال ایجاد ننده نشاندم خد که یو خد که نی روز بخانی می خد یا تو زرنگو خد که خط کتاب لیتری خد پرایویت جوی خد که ویل زمان که به جوی نخد پرایویت تو جوی خد او جارنگ جو پزیرسن جاقارویت یور مانجه خد بافم خد کوشی سن پرایویت تعلیم دستان کوشی سرم خد که یعنی ما کتاب بله کرد کتاب بله کرد که یه زرنگ ما یه سال ما 6 ماجا یه سال 7 خیره که یا میدل بات کنم ریدن
هذا شيء كم جاينك بات جودا
يوم عند حيدرآباد وهات نوزه امتحان مديك
teacher کوئی تو رہا private شن
private مديك تان
so then he says interestingly then he says that while he spent 1 year there in Hyderabad learning tailoring there so then there was a friend of his father his name was Dilawar so he has then invited him in his house there in Hyderabad and he himself was also a tailor he says so then he has advised him that there is not that much profit or benefit out of this tailoring as you could see me I myself am here and I also am a tailor master so finally there is not that much benefit out of it you are a young boy so it would be nice if you go and continue your education further so then he said it may be difficult now and whether or not my father allows or my father could support me so he said okay if you can't do it then you do one thing that well buy the books and appear in the exam as private candidate so then he has acted upon that and he gave his examination of 6th and then 7th and 8th there from Hyderabad also continued education up to 8th class along with this training what thing with training
अच्छा चीज़ बंदी था
امتحان دیره دعت نیشته
یا یت میدل امتحان میدیک تا دام بوز پاس ویت که تان بعد تا ماجه سوچ کرد که نیو دیگر کمرش نیان دیو دکانداری شهرت زیاده تو تا انسان روتات خط به بیزنسمن تو خیلی تجارت شکر تکناکر خیلی روزان وجه فاری رو خط کرده یه میزنگی میا خالق یا دقیقی تعلیم تار نافت واسه شیء تیار که بچار واسه دو گلمیتی سوسایتی که تو داو به ازر
سوسایتی سو دیگه تو
یا خوشی تمیستو مرحوم پنجمی شکافت یا ناکامی تصادنشو پنجمی داو خالق تو سلمان خالق ماجورین کار کرد
هذا سوسایتی
یا
1950 عشرة و 60 عشرة اول دي دورين تميس قصاية سباسن
از تميس قصاية دي دورين سباس قصاية دي دورين قصاية سباسن بحوالي سوسايتي شروع کرده که ما جتات بخات کنی که یه بلویش دیگه خالقیش شدن د مزان وسنیه شاک وسنیه ایت نی که
ساکت
یو چیز که چه زست سامان بود
دکانداری تو
سکیش دکانداریش کرد دگلمیت و دکان خطو جو خیال تدوید که ما تجارت رو داشته
یعنی کو چیز درزی کوم چیز که
یوم لکه زاکن جای دخیت امتحانم چه دیگه تانس باسم از یه چیز لکه تا این ما یا یارکم بکرد یتم بکرد خدا چه پرافت ما اندازه نسلایده
So he says that after completing his 8th class, qualifying that exam. Then he also observed that there was not that much benefit out of tailoring at that time. So then, because his father, his father himself was also a businessman, doing, taking these stuffs, from Gilgit to those areas, and had a shop also. So then he said, okay, there is not that much. You come and join me, in this business now, having shops, because at that time there was a big value of shops in the area, he says. And afterwards, when there came a society was also opened probably in the 60s, he says. Yeah. So then, when the society shop was there, so then they asked him to be salesman of that shop. He went there, but his father restricted. He said, well, there could be an issue because that is a society, and then also communal assets are there. If something happens, they will say you will be targeted for that. Then he did not enjoy that, he says. To the shop that salesman is yet next to
Sorry.
At the society to salesman a little
name aldı. Diş Oktober davan kertu maje
target ne rale.
Madad davan haldi bilene.
So he says that he would facilitate the society people there, society in accounting and other states of affairs, but he did not run it. He did not become salesperson of the society. That was to Gulmit to come to the shops,
Gulmit,
yeah. So still the shops are there. Is 2 stories is there near the Jamaat Khana or at the ground. That is the shop.
What society is that?
She society to Shant.
बस ये चीज़ सोसाइटी तो हर चीज़ लेकर इनसे चीज़ नहीं ऐशाई होता नहीं है कुल चीज़ अगर चीज़ भी के सब नीचे ऐशा
कोई चुम्र खाल को जातू
तकरीबन 7 खाल को जाता सोसाइटी
Gulmit explained to her.
Gulmit खाल
So he says that that was a society was formed, and all people of Gulmit from each household, they were member in that society, and they opened the shop there, and in the shop, everything were brought there, every kind of stuff was there from those products of the general use of every day, yeah. So whether that was for eating purpose, drinking, or others.
Kind of cooperative welfare society.
Yeah. So Yanseng with the Besans was.
Tanzbadan with ke majhat khud tijarat jutat maj hay waqt noz maj da paisa hai maj tawil kert. Tawil kert تقريبا 2000 रुपया हा वक्त है जी आधा वक्त है 2000 रुपया मैं तभी के इसके तिजारत था.
And he says that his father then gave him 2,000 rupees at that time in 1960s. It's a very big value, 2,000, So he gave him 2,000 money and rupees, and then said start and continue business on this. Then I started business, he says.
What kind of business?
कारोबार में शुरू करते एशियाई खुर्दनी सामान है जनरल
so these were dairy products and all general store like this.
थोड़ा सोल बात करने जाएंगे ऐसा मगील तम सामान
सोल तो तोरियोत है कि आयो नहीं तुम तोरियोत तुम बिना
आयो दिवे 65-66 अलबत्तो आसान में शुरू कर वही द 75 बात कर
up to 1975 we continued
75 बात का मैं कामयाब कारोबार कर
so I was a successful businessman. There was a nice business in 10 years.
It wasn't good.
Hukumat Gulmit to Ashkan.
The Gulmit khatto. Pindi no saman yot the Gulmit temporo. He
would go to Pindi and then take buy those stuffs, and then he'll take that to Gulmit and sell it there. That shop still is there. Yeah, still that shop is there. Yeah.
Tanemo then got ke Pamir vision the Halgo.
Ayo bakan.
So dawn jun wasta per dosti dawn awal genim kereft dawn dosti vit.
Awal genim to koin
أول جري وجدنا هايت خلقته أفندي باي. Daman dosti.
So he says that in the meanwhile, while I was doing business and taking these stuffs, so purchasing them from Rawalpindi and selling them there in Gulmit or in Gojal, by that time also he encountered and came across the Kyrgyz people of the Pamir, little Pamir, and he started also doing business with them. That was in 1968 when I got in friendship with a Kyrgyz named Afendi. So then for the first time he went along with him to the Pamir Khord or little Pamir along with Afendi.
صابون نشبيوت واصلين باتكن نشبيوت يلا چیز کی تا تو پمچ لخپار نشبيوت كل چیز يعني.
So he says that then he would take all those stuffs, all those commodities as they demanded,
cigarettes,
including clothes, including other dairy products if they needed something like this. Hassan شو واپس چیز होzum sir.
ثاني واپس زوج بشرات كلا نشوزم ديسي رو نشوزم يجي نشوزم شوين تازرين.
They would then exchange business through barter system, and then in return they would he would purchase yaks and other livestock, and then the what's called the butter, and then the ropes, and all those kinds of stuff he would bring in return from Pamir. अच्छा है चुंबत के वजन जाता है
यो 68 मजदान दोस्ती है शुरू हुई तो सालाना मशहूर रही था.
So every year he would go to
सालाना मशहूर 1975 बात करना.
Up to 1975 he has gone to Pamir. सांस बस नहीं जा.
सांस बस ऐसे तो महाजिर भी थे.
महाजिर 1979 भी तो.
यार सांस बस ऐसे महाजिर भी थे.
ने पाकिस्तान शान में कंजूर स्टेट से खत्म भी था.
यार
so सांस बस ती सोल रही थी अंतलेक्स नहीं था.
नहीं रही तो ब्रेक भी था चीज़ ना करके वो वजह उतारना है तो मैं ज़मीन मजदूर.
ऐसे में समझते हो.
आये मम्मा 1976 शुरू हुए तो दे में.
So then he says that
आदम कारोबार कामयाब कारोबार भी था. आये थाम रहे थे मौजूद थाम ये मौलम थापोरत बाफेन तरीक़ारे दाद नाला बिकावित थान की मौलूज़ अंदर ना कयो में कुंजद रोज़ रे में पोरत बिकावित के जुदास्ते पैसा भी.
Being having a successful business en route to Pindi back to Hunza, and then from Hunza to Pamir Khurd, he earned a lot of money at that time. So then he says that I was asking, why didn't you continue after 75 to Pamir Khurd? So he says that because by then we had bought this the land here in Gilgit in 1976, and that's why I could not go back. So we then he started now coming logically in that. So then he says that he would go to Pamir and those places definitely on foot. Yeah. Yeah, Nabesh.
I am ijazat Pamir Hunza mira fonda nishtak.
So they would get permission letter from the Mir of Hunza, in order to cross the border and have this barter trade.
Mir of Hunza power rim to Ozarian Sakre the Wisdom.
अच्छा ये से सोचते हैं ज़मीन आराम दुर्जन से सोचते सब दिमाग वैसा
बस दरमन जरूर
तो या ततीद दिमाग वैसा रुपना नहीं कोई तो ये मखाता कि जंग दुर्जता सरें
नहीं ये मैं सरखात अजय मार जुतात खात सोला कैस खज़ेरिंगो खातन सरेंगो रात दुकान काटन खात खना करते यो खाते दुकान से सोचतो दिश माई खाते खे उस मर दरमस्ताग देम दुकानदार रंशबीन खालगुन वस क़साब कैस أبغات وزم خدم دكان كردمي من يترن خات وزكوي خات كني دمش مخالي يستسايم لوكال خالي مش نسياريون دنك رندشنه یا موشن شات یا خلقش دین و شات از این گوشه افایج تو تا این زایند کرد چیزو کنی حالات بیرمیته هم تمیز کنه و دبن
صحیح
که البته تو که جنگو خواهد کمش زمین داد یا مکان داد خلاف خواهد ایو تیک خواهد بس که وزه که ساک دیدی که نیو تجارت ها کرد بدم قوش لنبا شوست تو مر پیسا بد ساک سرمایه نه تو کم پیسا تو نه که یعنی نسکا آیستان درنزاق زمین دیشت ماجد
چوم کانال داشت اول کنی
تقریبا اولگری ماجد 2 کانال دیشت
سکوین داشت
یا ایتو دفعه سر شه نیشته ویشت
اچھا
یا işte قوش لنبا یا شه نیم دیشت اولگری نیم دیشت 2 کانال نیم دیشت
چومر پر بتویو
یو های وقت نه 5000 من کانال دیشت
اوسه چتر
ونی سو چتر 5 کانال 5000 من کانال دیشت 2 کانال هم دیشت.
So he says that then I was saying that how could this idea came in his mind or in his father's mind that they would get a piece of land here than other places. So he says that because of that time he would travel through this area, go to Rawalpindi and then go back to this area. So they had interaction here and they could realize that what will be the situation. Then he and his father they have discussed together and then they have built a consensus that they start a shop here, opening a shop here in Gilgit. So then people, when we were thinking for that, they had shop here, of course. So then people before that they said, well, it's okay if you do it, but you know that the people, the Shina speaking people, they are very coarse in this regard to you guys, and many other, excuses for came there. But anyway, when we built a consensus 2 canals of land initially here, so then at that time at the rate of 5,000 rupees per canal, they bought 2 canals of land, 10,000 rupees at that time in 1976.
Is it this land or in?
I am Zmin to an yeah, the same.
از این دو سرک تیم
This was it.
تان بعد ایشاد مینه سنسوات که مزمید دادم فرفرگی چهار دیواری این گفت خلق خط بود پیچه لگا بید
چیزی خود
خاطر که نه تو زن گفت که زمینی تی چم دم دست ایم و درس دم جود.
He says that so they worked here. تو ترپوف کتی تو نه؟
نه جتات این دیار دیج تو.
او چیزی سکت نه اسباب بیش فیا وقت خسانیا چیزا نکتو چیزا نکتو بیش سبیدار چیزا حکیم رو پرتن
یو لسه
از مثل چیز بیتش کن نه بیمار سی بیتش کن that time اچھا so he says that then when he worked here for 6 months and then he made the boundary walls so by then the people then himself the people would go to him and then say also buy this land and then just annex it with that like this. So who is to the ring?
Local
they were the local Shina speaking people.
Art canal 5 malla sabasan sahal gundejt.
So later on, besides that 2 canals of plot, then he bought also more than 8 canals of land here.
Okay. What was in the neighborhood when he arrived here, when he bought this land here? Was it already settled or was it?
It was a barren land, totally barren land.
And who was the owner of all that land at that time?
کوئی تو شندیا زمین مالک دا وقت
زمین مالک و ترخان یونو شارس خان تو
one was Shah Isma'ili, he said.
یونو سیدالله تو
another one was Sayyidullah. Sayyidullah.
So it was all private property and it was in the hands of many different people from Gilgit.
خاندش که یه مطلب یعنی سرکار نه تو بلکه خالق ون یوشتن تو مطلب مختلف خالق ون تو یا سامون هم دیگر
خالق وش نونگی خد تو خشراس و پرود.
So he says that well because
ده تو فرادی به کردن.
So they did also some cheating there also. He made some fraud also. So
دیار مجرد که وضع پسباس یه خالق پسباس نه حق شوبا دستان خالقونی کنی زمینی یم وز کده میتش.
So he says that they also cheated me in other sense, because when they sold it to me, and afterwards they also sent some people. They prepared people, such people that they should come and claim for the land that it was theirs after payment to them. Yeah.
How was it officially documented, this land selling? Was there any official recognition with papers and documents?
Kan scheme se sochte matlab de sarkar cheeze me sochte nuiz de shand barabar to wazam shand.
سرکار ده مقدمه گفته.
So then he has litigated it, then he has gone to the court here. So he says that. So then Ayat Sayyidullah
Sayyid Abbas.
I true. So
نوشته
نه سومر وتر پارت چنم فرض که یی 5000 اول نیت داشت بو کانال 10000 داشت
چهار سر تو راک 8000 ماج داشت تو
یی کانال 8 کانال 864. So he says, that from these guys, कि चीज करता बस you Shah with चीज करता.
you Sayyid Abbas.
Sayyid Abbas, you Sayyidullah.
Sayyidullah.
So Sayyidullah, Sayyid Abbas, and Shah these were the guys from whom he had bought this land. One canal was at the rate of 8,000 at that time. كم سولته تقريبا؟ 1976 اول کې دی
77 بعد مقدمه 1977 باندې خرید
So he has bought the other canals of land in 1977, and when they claimed for it, and then there came up litigation, so then he went against these guys in the court, and he continued 8 years in the court. So then the decision came in his favor afterwards. So
خونن که تو اندی مقدمه بتو ان ایسال رتاد از سکنهات بال بچه میشن نمیستو که ولی
چه مال اول گنیت زمت رو بچه بره
1977 زمت
77 خاطر تو
77 خاطر
هذا وقت خون که تو دخلای
يعني 19 مارچ 1977 ساکدم پهلا کوچ نویس کو دو بال بچه مو
اچھا تا بچه ودناش نه تورم کوئی
آدمی اشتو خاطر تو اشتو ترقام تو ساکنو شم علاج
نه 19 مارچ 1977. So he says that for the first time when they constructed a local small house here, and then on 19th of March 1977 he migrated from Gulmit to this place, brought his family here. Yeah, Nabesh.
Was Yakum April and June government service
Uniso
April 1977.
So then he says that on 1st of April 1977 he also joined at that time the public sector organization. She's the department
PWD
in the power and works department of the government. She's the
I have a pump operator.
He was a pump operator. And the kum is now
water and power.
So
water supply
here in Gilgit.
Water supply machine.
So he would operate the machines.
Yeah. So he also brought his father and his mother.
Tat nan ne to tat batawer nan batawer jumat Remozom. وقت عزیز تا چوبت خدمت ندارم. معجزه با تا چوبت خودم.
دیگریش کردم. نه سوم زمان نیستن.
شاد زمان نه.
تو صبر سریم چابده. Okay. So his first and second children, a son and a daughter, they were born there in Adver. In Gulmit, yeah. So the four of them, they were born here, yeah.
What about his own parents?
So he did not bring his parents. He says, they were there because there in Yarzich there was also a piece of land, and his mother was also there in Gulmit.
So he brought his 2 children and his wife, and he himself. So you said this land was all barren, and you established your house here. So was it the first house in the whole area?
I am area hadem area cheto majhat heto bakis kasar ali sher to yoverit to demdestere salim to tsemgna Yaqub nung to Tagna Shafali nung Tagna Hashim nung to.
He says, that at this place where we are now, there was no building, no construction here. So he was the first who had built it. But when we go further up, near the Jamaat Khana or above the Jamaat Khana now, so especially along the road, Subedar Ali Sher and his brother Subedar Abdul Hakim, they had constructed their own buildings. They are from Central Hunza, and down to them. Above to him, there was Subedar Shafali, Subedar Qalandar, Subedar father of Momin Shah was Shafa Ali, Qalandar Shah was Salim, so they Hashim Shah,
all from Central Hunza. And all ex-soldiers?
Yes, cooked Fauji retired to us. All ex-soldiers.
When you bought this land,
Art Garana to now are Muslims.
Adam So at that time he says that altogether there were 9 households, 8 were they, and 1 was he himself here from Gojal. Gojal Subirto. So he was the only from Gojal.
Okay. At the time when you bought this land, were there already plans that such a densely populated settlement would establish? So were there already some city plans that this would be a settlement in some years?
I think she's too ashant ki Trimiskin Sarkorgan, I think she's humid ki emerchi planning had commit ki I think some share most was
Hechine dash to Saknuit, the Chin Meh she's a Nakreke, Unis or Sate Mola, they say with Tagana Konidas here. I am Genario Ishara Hetki, Hayadem Pujumomin, Haldim Gulgulzaros.
Isharai to Kaknitki. Knitkitka Isharai Hetk.
Yeah, your Farman Het your Isharai Het. To Mubarak in Tem Ishara, the Svetke, I am area Jamaat Nestiknet. Guli Gulzaros.
So he says, that when in 1960, when His Highness Prince Karim Aga Khan, he for the first time visited Gilgit-Baltistan, and especially when he was here in Gilgit, he gave his didar or his he met the community here. So then it was on 26th of October. So then he says that he has pointed towards this land from there. Just across that is Konidas. Across the river is Konidas. So there was the old airport also there. So he says that from there, he has pointed that, this place, my community, would come, when they will come there, it will be like a garden of flowers then. Because normally people also look at his gesture, what His Highness says, and then what are his gestures pointing like this, then people get meaning out of that. Even if he did not say anything, but people will get meaning out of that.
I see.
Yeah. अच्छा
आयो यो मौला फरमान दूसरा जुनखुन निजाती सोच है हम तो कि उस अदम से माहौलन गोजालन कुम द तालीमी नास ये मियाँ नास ज़ाव सोहलात नास तक ना के उस अजंग जाय हालम और दा स्कूल करीब ज़मान व तालीम ना
second he says
शुक्र अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह के अजीज हावली थ्रोसालिया बुसालिना तो या मुझा हावली चुवे तो वो जमान दर्जन रहना का कोई 5-6 साल बाद पब्लिक स्कूल में भी था पब्लिक स्कूल की वजह ना कमा अवलनी और दाखिला दे और आसान सुबह से हो जाए थे वैसे देखा खुद वर्ष द आयम खुदा इज़ात शुक्र सर
he says that well this was one of the big factors that His Highness's visit was there, and then he had also thought himself that well just when he could not continue his education, there was no facility there, so then he thought that well it should not be it should not be so with his children, so that when he is out of Gojal here, he may be able to provide education to his children here better than Gulmit or Gojal, yeah. So then when he came here, so his first child, Dr. Hassanullah Baig, who is now in America and has come here recently, and then his first daughter also. So they were here. So after he shifted them here, after 6 years or 5 or 6 years, the public school and college was opened here at Jutial, which is by the military. So then he admitted them there in that school, and then provided them education in that school and college.
और इरादा तालीम दूसरा अदायन की दशार मियानान के रहना कर रहे मुशोज मजदूरी है यानी कुम की जो पुरुष गोत नखना के योजदम गोतन तो गांव मुशो तो मरने गोतन अदम शे.
Another point he mentions that well, one was the education of his children, and second, he was also optimistic that when he will be in the city or in the town area, so he will get laboring opportunity also, and that was one of the points as well.
So since you have been one of the first in this area, you could observe the development of this settlement of Sulsikarabat over the last 4 decades. So could you briefly describe a bit about this development? What kind of people came here? When did they establish their house? Where do they come from?
خاندش که چه سوخت کتونی سکر ذکر کرد شند که گوجال چه عدم ایریا تو اولگینی خالقت نما بش تو دکتر صاحب شم پرسنه کی مطلب تو خاط نی واد رمت کوم که گوجال اولگینی خالقت عدم ایریا نکتان که سوخت ویزگا که تور نی به مشکل چیز معلوم مشات کی سوخت تو رمیز ده تور معلوم کی هایم صبور اشرار چه کوی خالقش تو وید چه سوخت خالقش تو وید چیر وید هم ترقیش سنگ نظر تین تیز باس کوی وید شند وادم گوجالن
بزرگ صبات و غفش خالق ویدن دمر سکتسار سرفراز حافظ ده یو ورود فتلیشو وید ده ایت تو دمان مشوره کرد وید دیو
کم سال فهمی تقریبا
یو سال ما هیچ چیز
چون سال تبات سوان
Somalian تقريبا نجتو نوضا سول.
He says that after him then Mr. Sarfaraz Shah of Kulkin, who is in the PIA, he came, his cousin Fatah Ali Shah came. So these guys, after 10 or so years,
Ghulam Ali Shah
Ghulam Ali Shah come again?
The Gulkin
Ghulam Ali Shah of Gulkin came.
Aslam Wise Aslam.
So Wise Aslam of Gulkin came. So these are all from Gulkin now.
And they all settled here?
They are in Zulfikarabad area, just above.
Wakil Tahir Batsagna there.
Then Wakil Tahir of Khyber came.
Yo Vritish to Hassanat Baig Barter Parot.
Hassanat, whom we interviewed, he also bought land here, but then later on he resold it.
Was I بشوي تدي وقاوش خالق يستوي.
أچا stone tremis kuitu tat.
سمان tremis سفادينا تو.
So he says that after him, before him, from the entire Gojal, before him, Mr. Adabiyot-e of Gulmit, he had bought land here. So not here in this area, in Jainung she's Homer, ne? So he had bought land in Homer. Before him. Qurban Ali of Misker.
Take it out,
I bought land there. Homer, okay, both of them they have bought that land before him in Homer. But here in this area he is the first.
बाकी दूसरा नंबर वो साथ रहने
ठीक है देम एरिया तो अलगनी
अदम एरिया वो साथ ایم تومر سالر از این تکلیف از این مشکلاتی که ماجیت تویستیم اتومر دخالگ دبیل خالگ بلیزه دبیلاش فیلم ماجی جنگ کرد که ودگور بات کنیم ادم موضوع.
So he says, you know, when he came and settled here, he has fought, you know, he has faced many difficulties fighting with the people here, with the local community, whom, you know, would tease him, and then till today, you know, well, now it's far better than before. So, but he has faced or encountered a lot of hardship here.
और दान के मर्कू सर्विस कर जो सर्विस बमार द गवर्नमेंट अजंग जे बेहतरीन किस्म सर्विस हम करते हुए देखे आजाद मर्शन में रिटायर्ड हुए थे.
With an honor, he was retired in July this year.
Is this Zulfikarabad or is it another area?
Khan's came in Zulfikarabad and Ijda direction.
ये भी Zulfikarabad.
Yeah, it is Zulfikarabad.
Okay. Does it mean that in the whole Zulfikarabad only people from Hunza and Gojal are settled?
Khan's ke the Ptun Zulfikarabad is Khan yem kizi drusta ki Ptun Kunjud Gojal khalq shros kidram. Ne digarish station.
नहीं यार local خالق जो बते.
So he says that the local people are also here, and people from Nagar are also here.
Shane is the local heim is the Shane is kum ke emjain te is the Gafchkam.
So the native people of Zulfikarabad are very few here. He says.
ज़्यादा ते 95% हुए 95% 5%
They could be hardly 5%. He says here the native now.
And local people means Sunni community.
The local means the people from Gilgit.
Yeah.
So who are either Sunni or Shia.
Okay.
तो खान की मतलब लोकल मानी चीज भी तो खान की शिया नहीं सुनी उठान
كيف شده الله لكي ايفنتو زمين داشتو ولا شكونون قوقت تم نو سكر قيمه ريبور.
So he says that while they are greedy people, they made, you know, this barren land on his name, and then sold it to us.
What could be the proportion of the communities here in Zulfikarabad?
What kind of?
Like this and that many percent from Sunni, Shia and...
عندك كي تصمر في من شان ده اسماعيلية تصمر في صدر مشكان وسنيت شيا تصمر من هذا الفقاربات.
तो इस्माइलिया तकरीबन नमोस्त 95% शिया बरादरी की तहना की ज़्यादा वैसे तहना कर लगभग की तहना की 30% की 40% तो मतलब सा ज़्यादा ना
नहीं 95% इस्माइलिया 5% वेट ज़्यादा 5% में होना पोज़ 30% शिया में ना
30% नहीं शिया
3% अलग
है
2%
हाँ अपनी अलग चीज़ है इंसान.
So he says that So he says that 95 I would guess he says that Ismailis here in Zulfikarabad are 95%, 3% could be Shias and 2% could be Sunnis.
So the overwhelming majority is Ismaili. So from which regions do they come from?
خانز كم إسماعيلية تسيش خانز مستو كم إلى خان غازيوت خان كنجرنا
كنجرنا زيادة غزر بتاعي كنجرنا زيادة.
So they are mostly predominantly from Hunza, he says. From Hunza means Hunza and Gojal, and then he says that from Ghazar.
Yasin Gupis, Bunyal.
In which other areas of Gilgit are people from Gojal settled?
خانز كي كم تمن لواب وكم جاي شان درم عدم زفقارباد لواب وكم جاي شان Gojali درم سيشان.
Gojali from Gojal.
They are also in Sonikot.
Sonikot.
There is a Jamaat Khana.
Other areas?
Sonikot bate, Upper Jetial bate.
Upper Jetial.
Homer bate.
Homer.
Homer nivel.
Konidas hotea.
Oh.
Konidas.
Konidas bate. Konidas bate. Che are me she's in asta. Bus arena side area rubate.
Around the bus stand, there are also people. It's called Noor Colony. خاندش که میزگر کلونی چه یا ذوالفقار آباد حساب. Oh, that is within this ذوالفقار آباد.
گوجال کلنی اصل نونگه و خیلی نیو میزگر کرد. اصل چیز چه گوجال کلنی. دورو بیشتر تا چه دو گلومات یا گوجال کلنی.
That is گوجال کلونی. It has recently made as میزگر کلونی.
میزگر کا کوئی خبر نہیں ہے گوجال کا نام.
Does Gojal colony mean that exclusively Gojali people live there?
خاندش که گوجال کلونی معنی چیزی بودن که خالی گوجالیش تو نه کوئی بودن تو.
نه دیگری خالی شد. دو گوجال نه میزگر نموتو سوست نموتو.
نه گوجال سویش بکو خالی که زده گوجال کلونی تیش خاند یاسینیو بنیال نیو دیگر جاین کنجودن.
تو
Few are also from other areas, but predominantly from even from Nagar also. He says that predominantly by they were Gojalis there, and that's why Gojal.
लेकिन जब वो देखा दोनों बच्चे तो तकड़ा सो तो सियासत किस्म खल गया तो इंसान योन अदम के वो देखा जब दसपो किंजदी यूनियन बतबेत बरोबर ने तो जिंजू लगी तो यार खयाल इशारा से गोजाल का लिनोंगे रहता ना क्या ये मुखालिफ उदान मुखालिफत कर कि गोजाल का लिशी से किंजदी लेकिन ये उधर बच्चे गोजाल का लिनोंगे
there was a person, you know, there was a person from our area. He was a kind of, you know, very proactive, so communally. So he has proposed it, you know, as a Gojal colony, even though there were some resentments again, you know, as I was saying from the central Hunza, that why is it so, you know? So that's part of Hunza. So why is it so like this? You know?
Who was that person? Who was
proactive? So he was one of our relatives named Darab Khan late, from Gulmit.
So you bought your land individually, but I have also read that cooperative societies were involved in land purchase in Gilgit. What kind of cooperative society were there, and where did they buy land?
خاندش که مطلب سو که سب خاطر تومون مطلب یعنی رفتن دهی مشن چیز خاطر ودرم زمین ودهی خون وقت از اینک بود وقت خالقش بمن مگر ماشکشن شند که چیز cooperative society فتو که یو زریانو بزمین کرم دهش شکویست شند
society زریان ترخت معلوم که سک وجار اندن شنه کنجدیش تو بزن تو ملصق خالنات البته ام یاسین پونیال هایم خالگیو که در گیو معلوم نست.
He said he does not know that much about it.
Who could tell us more about cooperative societies?
Kan که کوئی بھی cooperative society اولار سکرنا کوشش دیندیرم. अच्छा ترى چیز سکوار سدر که بچو کوئی سمال داشت سال زين ترميس سباسن.
نیو سباسن.
کم وقت ساعت تقریبا.
دیش باید آنیو سباسن آبادی بیشتر. یه تا سوسایتی بارانی مال هیچ معلوم نست. کوئی وزنی زمان شوشاود کوئی من مال.
So who runs the society? I don't know.
یه تی بدت هیچ واسطه نست.
No concern with that.
مال صرف از که هو مهنت مزدوری است که هو سرویس آدم باید که واس با خالی که چه زود دمحال نکنه که چه ساده زندگی سگ گذار کرد که همین چیزی معلوم.
Same.
سنا لوا وزشین اسم تاگم.
So does it mean that here in Zulfikar, but these cooperative societies did not play any role?
No, he says that he is not that much aware of it. Well, there could be if there are someone working through that.
For example, in Gojal colony, was it also sold individually, the land, or was it sold in one piece and then finally divided into individual plots?
خاندش کی میسکر colony, yeah?
Yeah.
خاندش که تا Gojal colony سهش خاند فرسا. اصحاب زمین وسط دیش گیو زنگ تو که هر یه خال گری سر دیش دنیا اول گنیو اسکه یر پیاد و دیش تغلو پس باس تقسیم کرد که پورو تو سایتی زریان زنگ چیز بیتوا.
یه تو ماجر غلط
سویس
معلوم نست.
अच्छा तो ये मख्तब सुमर खून फुमी ندرم گوجالی ون
گوجالی ون تقریبا ساکش ما توی ورشه ماجر ایشوب کرد اینسان یا ما رفتو که امضا و معلومه لیستی امضا تقریبا کرایه‌دار خونبار خالق 250 خالق شوید.
هم خونبارت هم کرایه‌دار.
کرایه‌دار بیرون.
I was asking that, well, these days, how many households of Gojalis could be here in Zulfiqarabad? Zulfiqarabad, to know.
Zulfiqarabad, Sonikot, kujay.
Zulfiqarabad and Sonikot area in this, in this what's called belt, yeah. So he says that the children, the students, they had also celebrated, but more particularly he himself, as he has observed it in the wedding celebrations here, and also the list shows that, well, there are over 250 households of Gojalis. They are both permanent settlers here, and then those, they are the rentees. He doesn't know that.
So we saw that in the beginning, mostly ex-military people. What kind of people came later? Are there also specific professions?
कि जो तकन ना जो तो से म फौजी तो कोई की रिटायर बित कोई गया ख़ोन बता जैसे बार बजंग जो तेरे सावरंग बजंग ते शांत लेकिन गाज़ जो तुम नहीं में लेकिन कौन किस्म खाल किस्ते सेट फौजी बता सावन लवाक तो कौन पेशान अब जो तो पुमिन क्या से रम फात ख़ोन बता इसको
दुनिया ओपनिंग ये रूल गज़न के हर खाल के पैसा कमाए हैं कोई अफ़गानिस्तान एक मज़दूरी है कोई अमेरिका एक मज़दूरी है कोई लंदन एक मज़दूरी है कोई कौन शहर एक मज़दूरी है कोई ख़ातर दम खुल है चीन के गील के खाती मरकज़ सोखते हैं चेम निशानी कलाप पंजाब गनार बरचना करीब हो चेम गोजाल बरच دمش که حال نه گوجال حالت شده معلوم است خالق رشته داری موتی شادی یا چیز بکته خالق معلوم است جلد دامن تاچ شد که رشته دار و ریم شد دقیق رشته داری و دامن تاچ از زیاده باز شنوید.
آچه زمین ملازم طبقه خالقش بتوه که یا به خاطر زمین درزم.
ملازم تی زمین در کافی خالق ده لیکن که اندازه مرچم شده که کرایه داری چه دندر بار افشی.
آچه یویم سب خنک کی مدت صبار و سر که ملک صبار که یا به خاطر زمین درزم.
مثلا ناس پوچن امریکانی تت اول که نیا ورتویست. آچه نیو تاجیکستان و افغانستان سفروز جمعه همیشه. همیشه تو تانو مزوری گفتویست نه کدام ورده.
So he says that mostly what I could observe that mostly rentees are here more in proportion. He thinks, yeah. So and those as they have got to know their permanent households or the house here or they have bought lands here. So he says they are mostly those labor migrants who have gone out of the country or in different cities of Pakistan, and more particularly they are out like working in Afghanistan, in America, Canada, Middle East, or other places, you know, when they were out. So due to the hard currency, this they could beat this soft currency, and then that's why, you know, then they could come up with this.
So if the majority of the households live in rented houses, who are the owners of these houses?
خاندش کی مطلب سب سکان سنت که سب خیالر که زیادتر کرایه دارش درم نه کرایه دارش تو سه تو گوجان زیاد تو کرایه رو سه زیادتر کوی خون کرایه داشت کشند
کرایه مختلف خیلی
از کنجود نه یا تو رمجای نه یا
کنجود نه بته اول کوشش سرن خو مذهبیشن جماعت خانه است پسند قریب ایم دستان شاه ادمجای کوشش سره نوی تکنه که انس کی جوتیال برد کرده.
حتی مریم سه دست کشان تو سبزه کشان که دایی سون سه زیادتر وشت کرده دارش.
بعد میشه کرده دار که کوته کنجدی بخونیست نه.
کنجدی جاتا.
کنجدی خالق.
اولیش.
نگری که خونیست. نگر خالق کنجد خالق.
So he says that mostly, you know, among the rentees, the house owners are mostly from Central Hunza, and then of course from Nagar also, or some from the local people here, but more particularly they are from Central Hunza, and maybe then from Ghiza district as well. And when they cannot get houses here, and then they have also gone up also the upper Jutial, and then they bought They have rented houses there.
So people from these areas, they invested in land, they invested in houses, and then they rented it out as a kind of a business.
Who?
Those people who own these houses. So for them, it was a kind of a investment, we can say.
Yeah, who have settled? Yes, of course.
No, not those who have settled, but those who have purchased land, established houses there, and then rented them out to others. So for them it was a kind of an investment.
Yeah, they are. For example, you are saying it, I think, in the context of Central Hunza people who bought lands here, and then they invested it by giving it to the rentees. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and these owners, do they live also in this area, or are they in other places?
خونش و گرزیات کنجود نبیونه اول ویسمایلاش کویش بکتیدرم کسمال خون بخیت که کنک تو سمنی چیز هم وسترندی سلز خلق کی یا تو خون غاخ شروع سرمایه‌داری خیت که اول تو مطلب یعنی زمین در تنف خون گو تنف کرایه رات کنک که اب نیو بکار بور خاطر زین ساخت شد کنک تو یه تو یه شروع سرمایه‌کاری شدید چند تو یویم چند که حیات خلقش کوی که یک خون و خو خالق ور اسماعیل ورسرت که شرط بده جای حل نه یاشد نه حل نشد
خاطر بده جان
تیوا
یعنی اجازه گفت که پورشن وقت که او دبل پورشن وقت این پورشن کی خاطر نه یو کرایه.
He says that yes, the people.
بعض از این خالی بوده که اول دیگر جای گورنمنت جاب کوئی چاہتا کوئی high level post ته اگنا که یعنی گورنمنت کوئی مکانه داشته خالی
So he says that, well, yes, that is true. He says that, and then, for example, the people who have rented it to other rentees, they also live there. They have made portions of the houses, maybe upper story, lower story, like this, you know, and then they have given it for rent to others. And on the other hand, there is also one point he comes up. That well, those who are in the government or public sector organizations, working there. So, especially those high officials from Central Hunza and also Gajar. So they have given their land, their plots or their buildings on rent, but they themselves live in the official quarters.
In Central Hunza?
No, here. Okay. There are such kind of...
So that means after their retirement they will move into their own houses. I've heard that ex-military people, sometimes they get gifted a plot of land. Did it also happen in that area, that they were gifted the land, or did they have to purchase it?
كان جبت كي مثلا ما كشان شان كزنك بتاعي كوي كده فوق يار كت كهناك شانس بس كي ويز جاي يعرف سه چیز برات زمین برات که گیفتی صابر زنگ رنویت کشاند. اور کتابه چمر بزنگ همین نشاند.
تیو خواهش خالقیدن مثلا نیوزکا سار علیشیری یا وروتی همیشه کوفت سه همیشه گورنمنت یا بر زیت زمینی فوجه. فوجی خدمات کرده گورنمنت یا برات.
And there are examples also. For example, the first guy from Central Hunza who came and settled the area there, you know, his name is Subedar Hakim and Subedar Ali Sher, his elder brother. So they were in the military. After their military service, the government then bestowed upon them.
Subedar Palandar hai, Hashim Shah hai, inko government ne diya.
So these are those guys that government has given land to them.
In this area.
So, and among them, Subedar Ali Sher and Subedar Hakim, you know, they have got enormous land here, and even this Jamaat Khana and Sarfaraz's house from and what was Fatah Ali Shah's house going up to his area, you know, that basically are the land of Ali Sher and Abdul Hakim. So they bought it from him.
Okay, so but this must mean that the land before they got it, before that it was bestowed to them.
And ki agar ki cheez varat khan اگر که امروز تیز خند که مطلب حکومت که یا ورزنگ زمین رات تو مقصد وید خند که زمین دمیسته یم سرکار انتوید سكارتو سركوري زميني براتك أبرو الخدمات نتيجة
خدمات
تو يم بتن رياكزي أرانج سيزن تتكشد رياكزي سركورن تتكشد
بنجر زمینی چه سرکار قبضه.
He says that the barren land, of course, were part of or in the occupancy of the government. That is of the government. That's right.
So it was different. Some sections belonged to local people. For example, this plot which he got, and other sections of this area were property of the government.
خانت के मकसद ये विच शांत की मतलब जिंग इन तकसीम की जो के दाश्ता जिंग शांत की चीज हरे में एरिया फर्स्ट तो कुमत की देश शांत तो ये में चंद खाल के बन तो जबकि मतलब उसका सार से यो सरकारन तो
सरकार अवल दाश्त तो सरकार गवर्नमेंट से कोई भी किलो दा तक ना रिवीजर बस रिवीजर सांस बात से कुम एरिया किते हना कहा एरिया खाल गवा हकशुबास के दाश्तो शामिलात कुमते या कोई शामिलात रो सब तार इंसान फालतू जमीन शायस्ते was खातर से गवर्नमेंट है लाट साथ या से गवर्नमेंट है.
For example, here in this case we could see that well two things are there. If the government has the land land right, and bestows upon people that is there, but here in this case you could also see that well when the second right comes of the native people, and for example in this case we could see that well the people wherever they are, so then if they are near the barren land and then they claim the native people claim that well this is part of our inclusive land, so that is within the law also. And that's why the guys they had it so, and they sold it.
In some cases it's not clear if it's own land or if it's government land or private land. I see. Another question refers to the seasonal migration. I heard that in winter, especially in winter times, a lot of people from Hunza and from Gojal, they come to Gilgit. What can you tell us about this phenomenon?
मतलब ये सवाल ये मशान के मर्कशन शांत की मतलब यानी दम ज़मिस्तान वक्त से ख़ुसूसन स्पो खाल की स्टेट वजाल नशास्ते या शवेज़ नरंगील तलाक दस्तानी मुई दस्तान बू मुई थ्रू मुई अस्बूर मुई तो बशीज़ kan sen gifte शांत.
Tevzi. Actually, nive مثلا کوی اجن خالگیش تevte ما پیریشت. یا سریگن تباس نویزین. جی خون بات آلیتن ترخت معلوم کی کوی سپیش همش نویزین رمالک دستان. کوی کی دم ملازم اشته یا نه که آواتات اشته یا نه هیا خالگیش ویزین.
He says not all of them. Those who have got houses here, of course they could come, but mostly those people they are old persons. They cannot tolerate the cold or chilly weather there, and then they come here, they spend the winter here, and then they go.
Okay.
نیوزونه هیا خالگی شدم کی کوی کی جیل متاثر بیشتر. هیا خالگی شود که تو کونگ سکرایه است.
Kup jad.
شش خالگی.
Yes, Yota.
Yes, to take kung.
He says that now we could see also another phenomenon he is mentioning about after the Athabad Lake disaster. He says that we could witness the people of Shishkat, those who became landless and out of they were the affectees, so they are seen that they have rented houses here and they are
lifted here.
Yeah.
Students from Gujal or Hunza who come here to live with their relatives to get education. Is this a widespread phenomenon?
Student hawalan tinchis knak khand ki har jay zangte ashkan farsatan student shwazin dremutko akhisqom khonish halan ka erjoin ka rechnas.
Take kafi student is it?
Yeah, there are enormous examples.
Kafi student is English. Nitiko khon somar let.
And your own house is also one of examples. This is that how much there is.
Afschal je goede mannen bediedt wordt, mannen bediedt kijkt nu voor poster werk.
Most of the people they have cared for their brothers' children, for their sisters' children, and they have got.
So he mentioned in the beginning his own reason for migration to this place was education reasons or
Friend ki matlab sot ki to hat friend ki matlab tin tan nuizin takhu elian khaire muzain وجه يم تو كي تو يم كتيز مان verse تعليم سهولات was يو يم كي ملازمات هيم هر يوش من كوي بكرمز قاش بهيم شيء وتن ندقاش تنشان
نتا تقريبا هي وخاتي دماغ خاص
so he said no
almost service aqui خط service aqui acha خدمانو يجيو بوي was have service Dastan from
so first option comes to get employment for oneself and then to educate their children here, and then third to also think for the services or for the job opportunities for their children as
نه خانه ده ماجو مهنتن وزن که زمجای چه وقت وزگاه نه که تقریبا یعنی 1976 ستاتر نمودم لیکن کوئی 35-36 سال بیته جو مهنت جو مزدوری صرف حلال مزدوری مجھے صحیح محنت مخید گورنمنٹ سروس مخید خود زمان ودستان اور خدایا ایت کم کی جن اراداتو هناك خدایا او برابر گفت اور از وقت به شاید سلامتی میشن عزت میشن سرویس نیشت Peter بیو خاطر سکوپت ورزید یه بوی دست تروی دست پزودر که تپرت پاونی انشالله خدای ذات جون.
He said that what I had intended to come here, you know, with that intention and vision. So thanks God, finally, you know, that were fulfilled. My first, my elder son, my old son, he did his what's called qualification, or he qualified, you know, as a medical doctor, and afterwards he went to Afghanistan and now has got, you know, also citizenship of USA, has got married with that American, and now he is standing on his own feet, yeah, and I'm sure that, well, the three of my sons will also get help of him, so he will also pull their hands, will be a hand holding for them also, even though they have also grown up. And the second son, he is also married, and the third and fourth remains there.
Does his eldest son live?
I don't know. Ich weiß nicht.
Oh, okay.
So that's all. Ich denke, das ist klar, ja?
Ja.
Alles klar?
Ja.
تو غفت شکریہ شرین بیچ کم کساوه کم قیمتی خو وقت کرات was قیمتی قسان ساوه ساکر کشت خناکتو was ساور یک دور was شباش رگنا was Andreas کنن
راست مروانی ساور بیت ساوتون خط تکلیف خط که وزگرد نمجوشی نمجوشکن خونه وزگ ساون راست مروانی قسام مجا کرد کوئی دیت قصہ ہو سکتا ہے چیز فرق بوست یا بوست اگر کر تو دیت وہ سائٹ معاف دارید اگر جنگ چیز تیک نہ کر تکلیف خید کی وجہ کو ٹائم
سکسا وقت اندر
آوشی مہربانی سر کی
So I was thanking him.
وزم چکو پزو ساوند تاون دستان کیا
I was thanking him on your and my behalf that, well, he spared, you know, this much time for us out of his crucial engagements, and he says no mention of that. I'm thankful to both of you that you came to me and you got this much, you know, got this much information from me, but I'm the information which I have given to you, maybe there could be difference of opinion or difference of information somewhere. If there are so being human, so then I apologize if there is something. So thank you.